Hey everybody, welcome to the second episode of AMC Heroes.
Woo!
I'm John Schnepp, bringing you the cinematic world of DC, Marvel, Boom. You name the company, they're making movies now. We're going to talk about them on this show, the cinematic world of superheroes. Sitting with me is John Campea from AMC Movie Talk and a bunch of other shows. John Campea, what's up?
I'm so happy, considering we've been planning and working on the show for a year, that we've made it to episode 2.
That's right.
Very good sign.
And we have a very special guest. Every week on Heroes, we're going to bring in different people from the comic book world, from the movie world. Someone we've got with us right now, an incredible artist. His name is Chris Burnham. You might know him from Batman Incorporated and a brand new thing he's working on with Grant Morrison called Nameless. Chris, tell us about your stuff, man.
Oh, well, what do we got? Yeah, Nameless is coming out right now from Image Comics. There's the first issue right there. It's a weirdo sci-fi horror series. It's kind of, Hellblazer, John Constantine meets maybe Armageddon or Event Horizon, something like that. It's really, really weird, really gross. The last page of issue 3, which comes out in probably 3 weeks, is easily the grossest thing I've ever drawn. One of the grossest things I've ever seen.
Wow.
I think you guys are going to like it.
Well,
awesome.
I just read the first 2 issues, and I'm really excited to see issue 3 because there's some really mega gross out scenes in the first 2 issues, but they're all really, really well done and they're story related. So if you like creepy, strange, end of the world type, definitely Armageddon meets a post-apocalyptic, satanic, bizarro stuff. It's got everything in there, plus Chris Burnham's art. So
Well, thank you, bud.
let's move on. Let's talk about some stuff that happened in the world of the cinematic world of superheroes. This week, we got to Aqua Sweat. We got Aqua Swears is what's going on here. Our man Jason Momoa was rocking out at some convention somewhere,
that picture.
and he was, you do these conventions, people sign stuff, and sometimes they're like, hey, man, sign something really cool for me, or make it special. Don't just sign, thanks, buddy, or something. They wanted you to personalize it. So I think what happened is they said, one of the fans was like, hey, can you personalize this and like kind of, tell me why, DC's the best thing in the planet or something. And Jason Momoa just kind of wrote F Marvel in this very cool kind of Momoa font. I don't know what it's going to be coming out, soon as its own font. You can get it a suitcase probably for $24.95 somewhere on, it's a Momoa font. You'll have to find it. But what do you guys think about the outrage that went around the internet about, I can't believe Momoa wrote F Marvel. How dare he? What's all that about?
Look, first of all, we should give a shout out to Liz. I found out that apparently Liz, who is the girl who actually got her poster signed by Momoa and put the pictures online, and apparently is an AMC Movie Talk viewer because she reached out to me on Facebook, said, hey, actually, that was my poster. Here's my picture.
Oh, that's awesome.
So shout out to Liz. Good job getting that image.
And now Liz is selling that on eBay for $4,000.
So, I mean, congrats on that. That's great. We talked about this on Movie Talk the other day, and I still kind of feel the same way. I think it was done in fun. Remember, and here's the biggest thing to keep in mind, is that this isn't like Jason Momoa, because people are going around talking about, hey, Jason Momoa said F Marvel. Well, remember, he didn't create a Facebook post for all of his fans. I have something to say, my followers. F Marvel. No. It was at a convention just like you described it. A fan came up, say, can you write something that, for us DC fans? And he wrote F Marvel. Totally in fun, meant nothing by it. Some people trying to say, oh, this is because, he lost the role of Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy. No, it's not. He just was having fun. Nothing to get worked up about. Chris?
I think rivalries are awesome.
Yes.
I want to see Jason Momoa fight Chris Evans. For real. Get in the ring and fight. It'll be awesome. People would love it.
I think that would be a fight to see, I want Aquaman to seriously, every time he shows up, be like, F Marvel. Anyway, guys, what do you need some whales? Someone like starts communicating to octopus start climbing up.
Yeah, F Darkseid, right?
Have you guys seen that clip of the octopus just coming out, grabbing the crab and dragging it back into the water?
Yes.
I think everyone on the planet has now seen
That's
that.
one of the scariest things.
It's pretty awesome. Octopus, they're amazing.
Yeah.
I want to see Aquaman you want to mess with me? Squid. That's that's a power.
I think the first horror movie I ever saw was Tentacles. And Tentacles comes up and plucks a baby out of a baby carriage. I saw that when I think I was probably 3 and my brother was in a carriage. So it really freaked me out.
So this real footage really gave you some flashbacks. That is possible.
Chilling.
All right, let's move on to the second topic. We got superhero movies. Is it in or out of television continuity? So what's better for superhero movies? Tying them into the continuity of television shows or keeping them separate? Is this a violent battle to the death or a unified vision of bubbly friendship with warm hot tub parties? We have big hero cinema properties from all the major companies, and their series development is happening at the same time for television. We see companies are keeping the worlds unified with Avengers and Captain America on the big screen and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Daredevil on the small screen with some crossover, while Superman versus Batman, they're not in the same universe as, say, Supergirl or Arrow. What's better in the short term or long term as far as crossing over from the big screen, from big cinema films to the small screen on television? Let's start with you, Chris. What do you think?
Well, the way Marvel's doing it, they started out with the movies that have, an absolute huge worldwide audience of probably hundreds of millions of people are seeing these movies, and then they spin them off into TV shows that probably get watched by 5 million people or whatever. So there's a clear hierarchy. The DC, they've really made the splash with the TV shows first, Arrow and the Flash.
Right.
But you've only got 5 million people or whatever seeing those shows, and you don't want to make a movie with those characters and then have the worldwide audience feel like they have to have seen 3 years worth of television to understand that movie. So I think it makes sense given that they've already got this TV universe established to keep it separated. If they would have started off with the movies, maybe they could have done what Marvel did. But I think it works totally fine. I think people are smart enough to be able to keep track of 2 Flashes or whatever.
Right.
I've said this for a long time. I think what serves the movie universe better, and frankly serves the TV universe better, I like them kept separate. I really do. Now, don't get me wrong. It's kind of cool when you're watching Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Lady Sif shows up. Hey, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But I think creatively you are now tying your hands, because now when you're making your films, you can't just do whatever you want to do. Now you got to be careful. Well, we can't do anything that contradicts whatever that show did on TV that only 3.2 million people watch. Or if you're the TV showrunners, right? You're thinking, like, if you're the TV showrunner of Flash, you're like, well, now we can only do stuff that fits into this box that DC is doing cinematically because we're supposed to be in the same continuity. I personally like it better that they have no limitations on them. They can do whatever they want. And then that way we get 2 DC universes per se, or 2 Marvel universes. So look, Marvel's certainly having some success with their formula, but I kind of like the way DC's doing a little bit better for me, but I could see both sides. Like, what works for you better?
Well, it's weird. I mean, I haven't watched all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I've watched those few episodes that say Sif was in because I was like, oh, cool. Something that ties in with the movie. I haven't felt that drive to like watch every week of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think something like Daredevil, because it is tying into the cinematic universe that's established, but it's also far enough removed, especially like the way Netflix does stuff. They're going to drop so it's like watching 4 movies. You're going to be like, watch 10 episodes or something. So that's going to be, hopefully it's a great series. I love the character Daredevil. I want to see that character done right. How it ties in, I don't know. I haven't seen Daredevil yet, but something like The Flash, I like the idea of having, hey, look, eventually you're going to see The Flash, who's going to be part of the Batman v Superman Justice League. We've got this TV show called Flash where they're tying in Flash and Arrow and the Atom and a bunch of other characters. They're going to have another spinoff with a bunch of other characters, maybe like the Baby Justice League or Junior Justice League or whatever it's going to be called. They could even call it Justice League, but it's the television version. Yeah. My guess would be they go with the Justice Society because that would just be safe enough. Well, it's not really Justice League, but it's like, hey, we got
I want the Justice Club.
The Justice, I would watch it. I would probably watch it if it was called the Justice Club. Have a little bit of the Breakfast Club flavor. You know what I mean? So, it's up to you guys. Write in at AMC, the hashtag AMC Heroes, and let us know what you think is the better world for you. Television and movies combined, or is a movie separate universe, television separate universe? It's going to move on to topic number 3. Let's talk about the Valiant cinematic universe. So, a couple weeks ago, it was a big announcement. Will the Valiant cinematic universe be an actual movie cinematic universe? Well, it seems like it will. It was created by Jim Shooter and Bob Layton, then bought by a video game company, Acclaim. Then they went bankrupt in 2003. Then they got rebooted by a bunch of fans, just fans who were like, I love the Valiant universe, and we worked so hard to get the money to buy Valiant, all the properties, and now we're going to write it. So it's run by real hardcore fans. Though all of Valiant titles, this company's now sold its film rights to a Chinese corporation called DMG. And they've lined up a big amount of cash. They've set aside a giant chunk to make these titles into cinematic properties. So the question is, are they going to take their cue from Marvel, like a slightly humorous angle? Are they going to go with DC's kind of like grim, gritty, like super, dark universe? Or is it going to be something totally new? So let's talk about some of the titles that they've got going on, that have been set up so far. We've got XO Man of War. We've got Archer and Armstrong, and we have Shadow Man. And then there's a bunch of other ones that they've lined up, but let's talk about those three first. So we'll start with you, John.
Well, Man of War is really the only one that I'm really familiar with at all. But here's the thing, though. I got excited when I read this news. Forget what characters they have. I'm willing to say right now, it's irrelevant what characters they have. This is still good news. Why? Because right now, it's almost like the U.S. political system. If you're a comic book movie fan, you have two choices. You have Warner Brothers and DC, or you have Disney and Marvel. And that's it. There's no third option. It's just those two pushing each other. And both of them are doing a great job pushing each other, trying to one-up each other. They're doing a great job. To give us more variety, though, a third player in the game, there's nothing. I mean, for them, they could lose hundreds of millions of dollars. But for fans, right? This is a no-lose situation for us. We're going to get a new brand brought in, fresh new characters that a lot of us will have no pre-existing bias for or knowledge of, whatever. We can just get these new fresh characters brought to the screen that have big backstories that we fortunately won't be aware of, and try to bring a new element to the game. That's what excited me. A third player in the game, hopefully with a lot of that big Chinese money behind it, to really give this thing a go. And I'm curious to see if North American audiences will buy into it and see where it goes from there. I'm excited.
Chris?
Yeah, sounds good to me. XO Man of War is awesome. He's a Viking that gets kind of a space RoboCop outfit and comes forward to the present to fight aliens. So it's he's kind of Rip Van Winkle with guns. It's awesome. Yeah,
love
super
that
cool.
description.
Yeah, he's like, to me, it's pretty similar. It's like Conan the Barbarian with like some like armored Edge of Tomorrow stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's like it's a really cool concept, and it's surprising like how long it's taken. Like when you hear about how long Valiant's been around, I mean, it was basically created by like an incredible artist who was known for drawing Iron Man, and one of the guys who was the editor-in-chief of Marvel for one of its biggest, like the Secret Wars is all part of Jim Shooter's master plan for Marvel. So the guy ran a lot of different cool, crossovers and created a lot of stuff for Marvel. So it's fun to finally see this little pocket universe of characters that we've heard about, especially for comic book fans. We've known about these characters for a long time. I knew about Archer and Armstrong mainly because Barry Windsor Smith drew it.
Yeah.
So that's why I started. I was like, what's Smith doing? What's this weird thing? It's like, it's a weird comic, but it's a strange. All of Valiant stuff is kind of a little bit like off center, which is what is so exciting to me about it. It's like it's not like your regular superhero comics. It's not like Marvel or DC. It's like slightly off center, kind of. It's got its own like edge of humor, even with the stuff they didn't own, which was like Magnus Robot Fighter or Solar, the man of the atom or something. Those were always like sort of weird. And I remember like I'd pick up a couple of them mainly because of the Barry Windsor Smith covers. I was like, all right, I'll check this out. And they're always like I said, off center, strange, kind of interesting, weird storylines. So I wonder if they're going to take the jump from that and be like, hey, let's keep what makes Valiant special and interesting and bring that to the cinematic universe. So that's what I'm hoping. So if you guys out there haven't checked out XO Man of War, definitely check out like Conan with some crazy cyber alien armor fighting a bunch of other aliens. I remember like that's when I first discovered as well as everybody else discovered Bart Sears.
Oh man, that guy can draw muscles.
Yeah, he's like I brought muscles on muscles with shining muscles. So.
Well, let me ask you this. If there was, we're talking now with the possibility of there being 3 players in the game. If there could be a fourth come in, which brand would you like that to be?
Boy, you know what? It's actually 2 brands. I'd say Image Comics would come right off the top of my head. This man right here is working on Image Comics. In the back of each of those issues, there's like 4 or 5 incredible comics that Image is pumping out right now. Image is not, and actually let me go back a little bit. Image is not pumping out anything. Image is run by a consortium of writers and artists who, the Image is a publishing company, but they don't actually have a brand where they're not a cinematic universe. Image is not tied together there's a whole bunch of just different amazing properties. Like, so individual, like if you're a producer out there in Hollywood, you should be mining Image comic books right now. You should be like, oh my God, I just read 10 of these incredible hardcover graphic novels and I optioned all of them. That's what you should be doing. You know, if you want to actually edge up the other people are like, oh, I wonder when this property is going to get free, or hoping that somebody's going to do something with this other property. There's like incredible properties that are available right now. Like, let's talk about this one right now.
I was going to say, maybe we can get AMC. Maybe we can get AMC. We'll talk to AMC, you and me. We'll get them to give us the money. We'll get all the film rights to Image. First film we produce, Nameless.
Awesome.
There we go.
There we go.
That sounds great. As a matter of fact, Officer Down starts filming in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Oh,
Can you believe
yes.
it? It is for real.
That is a comic that where I met Chris Burnham. I can't remember. I was at one of the sweat cons, walking around, and you were sitting there with the guy who does God Loves Astronauts.
God Hates Astronauts.
God Hates Astronauts. Sorry, God Hates Astronauts for saying it wrong. But I love that comic too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And he had done this comic book here, Officer Down, and I was flipping through it, and I was like, man, your art is incredible. And I just bought it straight up. Like normally, it's hard to like just walk up because there's so many options when you're at a Comic-Con to just like, yeah, I'm gonna spend like $20 right here at this table, but it was worth it. This guy was like, I saw like the promise in this guy's art. I was like, man, this guy's he's got a really cool style. So super happy to hear that Kim Coates is playing Officer Down. Kim Coates from Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
So I guess what did you say? He's actually cutting his hair.
Yeah, he's cutting his hair for the first time in 6 years. You know, he used to have that big, long, stringy, gross, kind of greasy curl. But yeah, he's cropping it real tight so he looks kind of like a Sergeant Slaughter badass.
And is it going to be as badass as that comic book?
Yeah, I've read the script, and everything in the comic is in the movie, and then it's kind of fleshed out to actually be a story versus just 48 pages of nonstop violence. There's actually a beginning, middle, and an end now. But yeah, it is the comic plus. So everything you loved is gonna be there.
So if you guys wanted to see something fantastic, like a RoboCop kind of super violent story of the future with insane action, Officer Down. You heard it here first. They're gonna start shooting it right now. The other company I would talk about is Boom. So that's another Boom is another company that kind of like started out by doing a lot of anthologies like Cthulhu or Zombie Tales. And they had a bunch of they were adapting books and they were trying all different kinds of stuff. And then they really hit it big with adapting like The Muppets and Adventure Time. So then they kind of shifted gears and were rocking on that for a while. And then they just started doing hey man, like Ross Ritchie, the guy who runs Boom, was like, I'm going to just make a Planet of the Apes comic, or I'm going to make a sequel to Android's Dream of Electric Sheep and just run that for 9 issues and we'll bound that together and see what happens. So they started taking all these crazy risks, and a lot of their properties just recently in the last 5-6 months have been bought up, original properties that they just developed just because they wanted to be like, look, man, we're making crazy money from Adventure Time and all these other great properties that people just love reading as comic books, and especially for kids. They expanded that kids market, that young kids market, that a lot of people are like, nah, that stuff's dead. They just were like, no, it's not. Look at all these. We're sitting now on buckets of money. Thanks, kids. Some parents are like, all right, here's an Adventure Time. Here's some Muppet Babies. Here's some. So that that gave them, I think, the flexibility to try some new things, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Boom. We'll be talking about them next week. Probably we'll run a special section on Boom. But that's another company to look out for, I think, as far as their properties.
Right.
So, let's move on to the next question here. How much should a comic influence a movie? So how much does it matter that the superhero movie strays from the original source material? Does it really matter that Fantastic Four doesn't take place in the 60s? Did Joe Chill or the Joker kill Bruce Wayne's parents? What about the X-Men's outfits? Do superheroes have to have the same origin as their original comic book versions? Where does inspired by end and completely different thing begin? Let's start out with you, John.
Here's the thing. I grew up reading comics and all that kind of stuff, and I'm a major movie guy. But my feeling has always been this. When talking about comic book movies, the first responsibility of a director, of a producer, of a studio, their first responsibility is to make a good movie. Their first responsibility is not to stay faithful to the comic. And if you look at what are often celebrated as some of the greatest comic book movies of all time, like we did our Madness tournament last year, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at the ones that the fans really sent through, Dark Knight, Avengers, films like that. Even this past year, we look at Captain America, Winter Soldier. We look at X-Men Days of Future Past. These are films that are celebrated, loved, and have a high degree of excellence. take lots and lots and lots of liberties with the source material because, I love the way you describe it about how movies, comic books are two different things, and they're two different mediums. They come across. What works on a printed page won't necessarily work on screen, and vice versa. And so when you get a skilled studio and a skilled filmmaker can take that material, capture the essence of it, the key important things about it, and then give their interpretation of it as they bring it to the big screen, magic can happen. So look, my feeling is, all other things being equal, stay completely true to the comic, and where you think you can improve on the movie experience by making changes, then go ahead and make those changes and don't lose any sleep over it. That's just the way I feel about it.
How about you, Chris?
100% agree. I'm sorry to say. No drama here. Yeah, as long as you stay true to the core premise. The little details. When I was 12 years old, I used to get bent out of shape about things like that. I think in Batman and Robin, maybe Dick Grayson had 2 brothers instead of 1, and I got all uppity. What are they, idiots? They can't count.
Burning this, flipping tables.
Yeah, but now as a grown-up, I realized that little details don't really matter. They're fun to see, and now I think the little differences are fun to see. I've read 1 million Batman comics. I've seen 1 million Batman movies at this point. So whatever tweaks they can make to the story, as a longtime fan, that makes me a little bit more engaged, I would say, to see how they're tweaking it.
Well, you're just talking about Officer Down. You've read the script.
Yeah.
Are there some changes that they took from the source material as they translated to a film?
Not really. Joe Casey, who wrote the comic, wrote the movie script as well.
Oh, well, there you go.
And so it's all the stuff that's in the comic is up there on the movie. I think there's kind of a violent abortion that's in the comic. So that probably won't be in the movie. That probably won't
Joe
be there.
Casey, you have to come on our show next, man. So I love his stuff. So.
There's a ninja who cuts a pregnant lady in half, and the fetus kind of flies out and is also cut in half. So maybe that's a little less graphic than what you were picturing in your head. Well, or maybe it's more graphic. I don't know
if you haven't gone on Amazon yet and bought Officer Down, but you really should be ordering it right now.
One of the examples you bring up a lot, though, is a good counter example of that. That's sometimes staying frame for frame, shot for shot accurate can be the right thing for the movie. You bring up Sin City all the time.
I bring up Sin City. I bring up Watchmen. So there's ways to do it that I think are really fantastic. Like Frank Miller, who is responsible for Sin City, was brought in to co-direct with Robert Rodriguez on the very first Sin City. And I think that very first Sin City that was made is a good case study for you know what? It's great to have a little bit of flexibility and then stay so true to the comic book if you have the actual creators involved that, they were able to take Frank Miller's drawings and use those as kind of in between storyboards for some of the other shots. So there are shot for shot recreations of that entire series, especially Sin City. The sequel, not so much. I think they fell off went off the rails a little bit with the sequel, and Dame to Kill For, the middle section to me was fantastic, and the 2 outside sections for the sequel just didn't hold up. So, but the first Sin City, one of my favorite comic book adaptations. Watchmen, the same thing. I think Zack Snyder was able to take Alan Moore's script, even though Alan Moore refused to get credit for it because he's gotten a little bonkers. He's like, he's a very angry man. But, hey, look, he's allowed to be a warlock. I still respect him. So he took his name off of it. Dave Gibbons says, no, keep my name on there. I'll take that credit. Thank you. Sell some of those amazing Rorschach prints. Look, I love Watchmen. I love that comic since I read it. I've read it probably 30, 40 times all the way through. The movie had to make changes. It had to take certain sequences out because otherwise you'd have a 7-hour movie.
Yeah.
That's just it. I mean, they were like, look, we don't even know if this is going to be a success. We can't make a trilogy out of this. We can't put in $300 million. We're going to have to cut out that sequence where we have all the artists on the weird island creating horror things that a tentacled creature will then blast into everybody's heads and think there's an alien invasion. Let's just cut all that out and make it Dr. Manhattan's fault. So if you have some, people who are very upset about that, I can't believe they ruined the comic. And it's like, dude, they did almost a shot for shot recreation of the entire comic. They had to cut and eliminate certain sequences and storylines. And that one storyline, it might flavor it a little differently as far as the outcome, but the outcome's still the same. They were at the clock was right there. There's going to be a war. This was the way to change all of humanity and unify all of humanity through a big lie. That's what it was about. It wasn't what the lie was. It was about unifying everyone through the big lie. So if Dr. Manhattan had to take the fall, or a bunch of aliens, you know, or all these scientists get killed, which is a lot more brutal. Or artists, everybody got blown up. It was like a horrible pyramid scheme, all run by Veidt. I mean, it was like he still ran the whole pyramid scheme. It was still true to Veidt and Ozymandias as I'm the villain of the piece. I mean, they were able to do almost everything completely faithful, even the costumes with Watchmen, and yet there's still people who are haters on it. Then you have the X-Men where no one is wearing spandex, no one is wearing anything remotely yellow. Everyone's in like black latex, no one's wearing masks. It worked. I mean, look, it's like, it's not the X-Men from the comic books. It's completely, totally different. You still have Wolverine. He still has adamantium claws. You still have Cyclops. Lasers come out of his eyes. There's the core idea of other mutants, and they're all at this, you know, facility that this guy in a wheelchair who can also get into your brain. The core idea is there. Everything else is different. It works perfectly. So like a movie like X-Men Days of Future Past, I love that movie. I also love the original comic book that was written by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, that same story, which was totally different. It was a completely different story. It had Sentinels, it had going back and forth into the past, but ultimately it's a completely different ride when you're reading comic books and, oh, that's 2 issues out of this entire series. Well, they plucked that and made that a movie and changed everything else. So, I mean,
here's what's interesting though about that. It's like, we're talking about like staying true, and you're talking about when you depart, and then you talk about X-Men Days of Future Past, right? So here's an issue that comes up with comic book fans a lot, is particularly with the X-Men issue, is why is Wolverine not wearing the yellow spandex? Number one, because on the big screen, yellow spandex will probably look stupid. But here's the thing. I've noticed that I only hear people asking that question, and maybe your experience is the same or maybe it's different. I only hear people asking the question about the yellow spandex suit after a bad X-Men film. When it's X-Men 2, I didn't hear anybody complaining about it. After X-Men Days of Future Past, I didn't hear anybody saying he should have been wearing yellow spandex. I kind of find that in the realm of the movies, quality cures almost every complaint. When a movie's good, people have less to complain about. When a movie's bad, we start finding all these other issues and we call for continuity stuff, right? So I don't know if you guys have had different experiences.
No, that's a great point. There's like comic book fans who are like, how much can the Hulk bench press? And that matters. So they bring all this other stuff with them when they see a movie. And it's like, it's not this. And it's that they're nitpicking. And then there's wow, that's a really good story. It's different.
Yeah.
It allows
we don't
you to
see it on a
it's a transformative thing that happens after you see a very well-made film. If it's based on the source material, whether it's a book or it's a biopic or it's a comic book, if it's a great film, it washes all that away, because it can never take away the original comic book or that person's real life story, or you know what I mean? It's like, or read the book if you really want to get when you read a book, you get all the visuals in your head and you're the director and you're floating around. You know what I mean? It's like it's completely different. All the things are so different. Reading a book, reading a comic book, seeing a movie, playing a video game, they're all different forms of entertainment and enjoying media. So, I mean, for me, like all comic books, I'm glad when they're different. I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four because it's going to be like a science fiction horror film. That to me is so fun and refreshing. When you look at the Fantastic Four, it's like, they're all monsters. There's a rock dude, a guy who's on fire, an invisible woman, and a dude's all stretchy. Those are creatures and monsters.
It could almost be like a Cronenberg's The Fly, but 4 of them. I think
that's a great example.
I'm excited for this movie. Yeah. I didn't think I was.
You know what? It's funny though, because the director actually said the filmmaker who most influenced him was Cronenberg.
Oh, man.
He said, he said it's got a Scanner's type vibe and a Fly vibe. So right there, I was like, man, I'm 100% in on this film. While I was all like, I don't know, and then bam,
I was with you when that comment came out about Cronenberg, and his face was really influenced by Cronenberg, and Shep's face was listening.
No, it was fantastic to hear that. Let's move on to the next spot. This is the spotlight section, where we talk about what superhero character should have a movie about them, or a group that they just don't have right now that's not in development. So here's the pick of the week. We got 3 of them. Let's talk about some weird characters, guys. We got Parker Brothers' Rom, the Spaceknight. We've got DC's Swamp Thing. And we have Marvel's Devil Dinosaur. Let's go backwards. Let's talk about Devil Dinosaur first. Let's talk about what is it about this giant red Jack Kirby creation, this dinosaur, that people might love to see cinematically. What do you think, Chris?
Dinosaurs are awesome. Dinosaurs fighting aliens when they're being ridden by kind of cavemen apes. It's the greatest thing ever. Yeah. It is pure nonsense. Like, it's just, wall-to-wall action. Is there even a story involved? Barely. It's just fighting and, volcanoes and traps and spears and ridiculous, like, Garden of Eden, weird, like, mythological aliens coming down. It's totally bonkers. It would make for a great movie.
It is from the mind of Jack Kirby.
Yeah, that is 70s crazy.
Yeah, he was like, hey, look, I've already helped co-create Fantastic Four and Avengers and the Hulk, and I created Captain America back in the 40s. Now, like 60s, I created the Inhumans. We moved on into the 70s. He came back and did Captain America. And then he created Machine Man. He did, I almost forgot, the New Gods for DC, created Darkseid, who's basically all these characters, just like I can't stop creating characters every week, a new thing. So here we are, like, it was like late 70s, I think, early 80s was when Devil Dinosaur came out. And he was like, look, man, I think dinosaurs just haven't gotten the right shake yet. And I'm going to add my weird cosmic attitude to it.
Yeah.
So, John, let's talk about Moon Boy, your favorite character.
Moon Boy. I don't know where he came up with the name Moon Boy. Look, a lot about whether a devil dinosaur can work or not, to be honest, will kind of depend on where does it take place. Does it take place? Because devil dinosaur, a lot of times, you sneeze in his universe and you're accidentally teleported to modern day Earth.
Right.
Now, many times he says, whoops, now I'm in modern day Earth. But I think if you find a way, that's the way the story has to take place. I think a Devil Dinosaur movie that just takes place on Dino World, which I believe is what they call his world, just Dino World or Dinosaur World, one of the two. How convenient that it's called that. I would take out Moon Boy. I know a lot of Devil Dinosaur fans are going to hate that.
Heresy.
And I want the Devil Dinosaur who's in the ascot with a martini and brandishing a handgun. Do you remember that? Yes. And I shan't feel that way. And that's the Devil Dinosaur I want to see.
All right, well, here's my take on Devil Dinosaur. I would say keep him in Dinosaur Land. Keep Moon Boy. You got to have like that Chaka, like, dinosaur, what happened? What's wrong? And so, this is like, this is where dinosaurs and humans all lived on the same planet together. So we're not talking about reality here. We're talking about like a really fun way of thinking about like the past or the future combined into this weird world where you have dinosaurs, you have humans, and you have space aliens attacking constantly. So you have the ultimate merger, the possible merger of like dinosaurs fighting aliens. They've tried that in several different comic books and movies. You can go to the source material right here with Devil Dinosaur and have that like flavory Jurassic World kind of insanity, but with like high-tech Kirby madness. So I would love somebody to just take a crack at it, So that's me for Devil Dinosaur. Let's move on to DC's Swamp Thing. Now, this is a character that started out in the 70s kind of as like almost like as a knockoff of like the House of Secrets or these horror movies where it's like scientists working on some weird thing. He sets himself on fire, falls into a bog, regrows over him. And now he's like this giant muck monster. Of course, another Alan Moore recreation. Alan Moore was like, well, it's not even a dude. It's just a plant that thought it was a dude. So it's like just a living plant that is like got all the powers of Earth. So it can like, create trees, like make, flora grow in your lungs. Very, very, very powerful, strange creature that Swamp Thing grew into. But my favorite run, definitely besides the Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson original Swamp Thing run, was then the later Swamp Thing run by Alan Moore, John Totleben, Steve Bissette, and Rick Veitch. Those guys, to me, not only created Constantine and a bunch of other characters, but they grew and built up the mythology of DC's horror comics, horror characters like the Demon. They brought in the Spectre, and they gave all these characters who did not really have any kind of a cool shine to them. They gave them this horror shine. This like, no, they're firmly built in the horror universe. That's why you see the Spectre kind of show up in the new television version of Constantine. You'll see these kind of echoes that still have that, why is that even possible? Is because of that comic book run, that echo of Alan Moore's writing and just the way that they drew, like John Totleben drew the Spectre. I remember never having even seen the Spectre drawn that way. It's like, he's like a creepy ghost guy, it's all spooky, weird green cape floating, or the Demon constantly rhyming. Like the Demon, when Jack Kirby created him, he wouldn't rhyme. He was basically always fighting Morgana Le Fay. Or it was always like, hey, I got to get that Philosopher's Stone, huh? I don't know if the Demon talked like that, but But they changed him. He's like a creepy, denizen of hell who would like come up with weirdo rhymes, something times. John Campea, I don't know what rhymes. Really creepy guy. So I would love to see. I know the Swamp Thing's already been. He's had 2 movies like in the 80s.
He had that USA TV show.
Yeah, that's like 55 episodes. I was like, dude, I can never watch that. I've watched like 3 of them. I can't get through like.
I was all about it when I was in 7th grade.
How was it? How you tell me about it?
I liked it when I was a kid. He could turn people into plants, so once in a while you'd get a really good, cool special effect. It was like shot in the Universal Studios backlot, so they're always just walking around and around the same like 20 square feet of swamp, and there's always gangsters and criminals that are hiding out in the swamp, and the Swamp Thing kind of picks them off for killing birds or screwing with the environment or whatever. But it was pretty disturbing when he would turn someone into a tree, and then you'd get this gnarled tree with like this guy's kind of pained face, like he's going to be in agony for the next 200 years. Oh, no. It was pretty grim. But it also had those super cheesy 90s special effects. So Anton Arcane is in his laboratory, and it's got that fake Dario Argento lighting where it's like pink on one side and blue on the other,
right?
Which worked for like 2 years in Italy in the late 70s. And then the Americans tried that for like 15 years and it never worked.
Continue milking this. It's not working. I know, but this time it will. It's like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. And put some fog. Put some fog in there. It'll look great. Look great. The sets were just like a black room with like 3 test tubes and a desk. Like this set's more impressive.
John, what do you think?
Look, I'm like you guys. I love the TV show because at the time there wasn't a lot of stuff like that on TV that was kind of geared towards our kind of demographic that way. What I would love to see, I want to see a Swamp Thing team up with Don Cheadle's Captain Planet. And I want to see Don Cheadle play both characters, and they're just running around turning evildoers into trees. You do that movie, 125 million opening weekend, guaranteed. The great thing about Swamp Thing is because of the character, and if you actually go into the background of him, he's almost a limitless character. You can do almost anything with this character. Like with Devil Dinosaur, you're a little more limited in which avenues you can go down to explore. He's a giant red dinosaur. But with Swamp Thing, there's a lot more possibilities. That's why I like the idea of him, because creatively, there's a lot of directions you can go, a lot of things you can do with him, and still be really cool.
Yeah, just think about Swamp Thing now. He's gone through these different iterations, but if we were going to attack Swamp Thing now as a real, movie character, I would bring in climate change. I would bring in all these things that the Earth is slowly trying to shake us humans off, and I would make that thing that's shaking us off, I'd make that Swamp Thing. I would make he is the rise of nature against humanity. He is representative of all the things with our carbon waste and our big footprints. He's like, see ya. He's shrugging us off the planet unless we change our ways. That's a scary creature to me. And with our CG powers now, all like when I say our CG powers, all you people out there who make those amazing special effects that we enjoy, we can do anything. We just saw San Andreas. The Rock is fighting what is it? A tidal wave. It's a complete
The Rock
insanity.
punches an earthquake.
Yeah, the Rock is he's fighting earthquakes and all kinds of things. Imagine if that was Swamp Thing. I'm not going so far as to put like the Mummy, like put Swamp Thing's face on the tidal wave, but I'm saying those things. Swamp Thing is a very incredibly powerful character. Not only is he a horror movie character, but he can represent a lot of things that we're going through right now. And horror movies work best when they're on topic and on point to things that are relatable. And, polar vortexes are very relatable right now. So let's move on to our number 1 guy right here, Parker Brothers' Rom the Spaceknight. Now, this goes back a little ways. Like after Star Wars came out, a lot of people, and I mean everybody, was trying to jump in on this. What is this space opera stuff that everybody's going bonkers over? Well, let's get in on that. Let's get some of that money. Let's get some of that like Star Wars money. Let's come up with some stuff that's like Star Wars. So people are like coming up with like things that echoed space operas like Battlestar Galactica. You had all kinds of like Roger Corman's Battle Beyond the Stars, or like you had all kinds of movies and television shows in the toy world. You had Parker Brothers like, how do we get up on this? Let's get a robot who's sort of like Darth Vader and C-3PO. Let's combine him and make him Rom the Spaceknight. And he's like the, a knight in shining armor, but kind of a robot. And he's got like laser eyes. And we can make that happen,
Excellent.
right?
Done.
And
Yeah,
only
done.
like 2 bendable joints.
Yeah, like and of the 2 bendable joints, he sits like a duck. Because I ended up like as an adult, ended up buying the ROM Space Knight toy, and I was like, had it out, like hanging up for a little bit, and I was like, hey, it doesn't really even stand properly. It's got weird, like kind of small, tiny arms. And he's like, here is my neutralizer. So he had like 3 light up things. Like,
He's
here's
got like a megaphone that he pretends to be a laser.
Right, this is my translator. This is my laser, and this is my some other device.
Here's the ultimate thing of a cheap out thing. They were so concerned about keeping the cost down on that toy, right? The eyes were supposed to be green.
Yeah.
And they made them red. Why? Because for some reason that I have no idea why, making them red was cheaper. So they made his eyes red instead of green.
I mean, the original, actually, I think even the
I think
original
it probably
commercial,
leftover brake lights from a truck or something. Right?
Yeah. They're like, just put those in there. But yeah, I mean, there's a commercial that he has the green lights in. So it's like, but the red lights actually make him look cooler, I think. So,
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so what happened with ROM was Marvel, who had just done a really successful comic book adaptation run with Star Wars, was like, we're looking for properties. Let's hang out with Parker Brothers. And before we make that, Clue comic book, let's make this ROM, the Space Knight comic book. And so basically what happened is Marvel had a really successful run with ROM, the Space Knight. As for me as a kid, I read and loved every issue of ROM. Marvel, their writers came up with a whole world for ROM to hang out with. They came up with the villains, the Dire Wraiths. They came up with ROM's home planet, Galador, and they came up with all these other robots that ROM got to hang out with. So, and also occasionally hook up with battle people like with Spider-Man or Fantastic Four. Yeah. So all the Marvel characters were part of that ROM's world. Unfortunately, ROM finally got canceled in issue 75. He's a human, just like the Silver Surfer, that he had to give up his body parts to become like, part cybernetically encased into this ROM outfit. And, ever since then, Parker Brothers has owned the rights to ROM. And the Galadorian Space Knights are still part of Marvel's universe. The Dire Wraiths moved on to be, to threaten the Fantastic Four and a whole bunch of other, they fought the Skrulls, and, so they're part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because Marvel came up with them. They got to keep the rights, but ROM is nowhere to be seen. So until they are able to make some kind of deal, like Parker Brothers holds on to the rights of ROM. So what do you guys think about ROM? John, let's start with you.
Well, ROM was a guy I discovered because I had a couple of buddies that, I would pick up and read comics. I wasn't the guy who had the 17 cardboard crates that I would keep all the cardboards in, but I had a lot of friends who did. And so what I would do, because I was very budget aware, even when I was younger, I would just go to my buddy's place and pull out comics, and he had a lot of ROM. The cool thing about ROM is, like Star Wars, there are really traditional mythologies attached to them, right? Like, how many times have we heard this, even just in the comic book world? A warrior from an ancient alien species who is kind of a defender, now on Earth fighting those threats. I mean, already you could probably list off about a dozen other comic book heroes, like right off the top of your head. What made ROM kind of interesting was the fact that he was a toy first, that a comic got made specifically to increase the sales of toys. But he then exceeded the toy, and actually the comic book far outlasted the toy, because the toy did not last long at all.
The toy lasted like 7 months, something like that.
So what you did is but they did some really cool things for him that they weren't doing story-wise at the time. Like, he'd be on Earth, but a lot of people on Earth they didn't know how to take him. Right? There would be times that he would like take out a Dire Wraith or something like that, and people were like, he's a murderer, he just killed some guy, because like the Wraith had like the scroll kind of capability of muting and other things. So there's a lot of really cool traditional mythological stuff in there. It was kind of, I didn't like the way the whole thing ended, because then his 2 main other Space Knight companions, they ended up going on continuing here, but he got his body back and he got to mac up with the girl and all that kind of stuff, which I always thought was kind of messed up, because he meets up with this girl, and she's got a boyfriend at the time, and the boyfriend's even helping him out, while secretly the girl is starting to urge for his junk and all that kind of stuff. And while the boyfriend is helping him out, I always thought that was kind of messed up, but whatever. But this is actually one that I think, because of the villains, the Dire Wraith, and that traditional mythology in the background, you could turn this into a movie real easy. You could turn this movie into a movie really easy, and it could be done really well. And I think it's the type of movie that could also be really marketable. So and Ben Foster as ROM. I could totally see that, because let's face it though, a lot of it, he's just going to be like that anyway. Sure. So I can see a lot of his face. But I am all for a ROM project, totally.
How about you, Chris?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm sold. He's fighting the dire wraiths. I don't know.
Dude, it's like, but imagine like it's like Pacific Rim. It's like robots versus monsters.
All right. What can he get in like a big like Power Rangers version of himself? Like I don't know if he grows. I don't know if he
like
grows.
Rom
like,
gets inside another Rom.
Yeah.
A giant Rom.
Yeah, double ROM, mega ROM.
I love it.
Mega Rom.
Now I'm in. I'm officially in.
Awesome. I could see that too. I think Rom would be a fantastic science fiction, fantasy, action superhero film. So
And if he starts fighting to save the environment and teams up with Captain Planet and Swamp Thing, blocked franchise.
too much Campea. You've merged too many franchises. All right, let's move on. Let's get guys. We're gonna hit the Twitter universe right now, and we picked out a bunch of Twitter questions from you guys. Some of you got really sweaty, so I really enjoyed picking out some of these extra weird questions. Let's start off with question number 1 from AK Aknosh 2015. So AK says, "Hey guys, what's up with the Fantastic Four? The buzz has died off since the teaser launch. When will Fox release the next trailer?" So, look, I look at it like this. Isn't it cool that there was buzz in the first place? Every single person out there was like, the Fantastic Four movies are going to suck. All you'd hear about all last year up until this teaser movie trailer came out was how bad this movie was going to suck. It was never about, it could be okay. I never heard anyone say, I can't wait to see the Fantastic Four movie. All I heard was like, how bad will it suck on a gauge of suck to extra suck? Right. How much will it suck? Then that teaser came out and it just flopped. I'd say 50% of everyone. I'm one of those people who, when I saw that teaser and read about what they're trying to do with the film, I never was like flopped. I was just like hurt by the other 2 Fantastic Four movies so badly that I had that kind of, I don't know if I can do another one of those comedy Fantastic Four movies. And so it's like,
You didn't like Mr. Fantastic dancing in the disco, grabbing 2 blondes and wrapping them up with his elastic arms? What?
Campy, I have successfully forgotten that scene until you just reminded me
Disco
of it. And
Fantastic Four.
now it's in my head.
Back.
So yeah, I think the teaser trailer actually did its job. It got everyone spinning in different ways of the thought process. So some people still think it's going to suck, and a lot of other people are actually looking forward to seeing what this spin's going to be. So what do you think, Chris?
You sold me a half hour ago by saying it was going to be like Cronenberg's The Fly. So I'm in. I thought that trailer looked pretty cool. To answer his question, when's the next one going to come out? How do we know? It's insane. I don't know. When it comes out, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I think as far as when the next one comes out, they're in no rush. They're in absolutely no rush, because here's what that trailer did. There are a lot, you're so right the way you described the fact that everybody was just, all you would hear, and it was getting louder. The chorus was getting louder and louder with every passing month. This movie's going to suck. This movie's going to suck. This movie's going to suck.
Yeah.
And while that trailer may not have changed a lot of minds, it changed some. The trailer quieted that. Like you didn't hear it as much or as vocally anymore. People started to get a glimpse about what direction they're going with this. Is it a different Fantastic Four? Yes, it is a different Fantastic Four. But guess what? Doing the same Fantastic Four wasn't working. It was a disaster. So they wanted to try something new, right? And you and I have been saying forever, like Schnepp and I have been sitting back for like a year going, well, you know what? Neither of us like the other Fantastic Four, but man, they got this Josh Trank guy and he seems to know what he's doing. And then they got Kinberg writing the script, and we kind of trust him. Right now, like Academy bodies are talking about Kate Mara. You know what? This Miles Teller guy, a lot of people thought he should have gotten an Academy Award nomination this year. And right now, directors are lining up around the block to try to work with him. This Michael B. Jordan guy probably should have gotten an Academy Award last year for Fruitvale Station. Yeah. And now he's going to be in that new Creed movie. And everybody's taking this kid really seriously. You know what? When we sit back and think about it, there's not a lot here to complain about. Right. Now, blogger Dr. Doom, you got me. You got me. That's okay. Yep. Yeah. That's something we're going to have to see how they do. That's a cause for worry. But I think that trailer came out, it had a great feel to it. The movie may suck. There's no getting around it. It might. But I think there's a lot more to have higher hopes for than there is to have low hopes for. So I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to whenever that second the full trailer drops or whatever, like, they're like, this was a teaser. Now here's the trailer and here's the second trailer.
Treaser.
Yeah. Whenever the treaser comes out, I'm going to be watching it. Here's our second question. It was from Andrew Williams. Run. He's going to say, hey, how do you guys feel about the new 52 Batman comics being the basis for the new standalone DC movies that are coming out, and it's hashtagged with Court of Owls? Throw it over to you, Chris. What do you think about the new 52 having worked within the new 52 world?
I think it's awesome. I haven't seen that Court of Owls one. I think is that Batman Son of Robin, or
I think
Robin Son of Batman, whatever. When Damian is introduced to the cartoons,
I think it's after that. No, it's after.
That's the second
Damian,
one.
yeah.
Whatever. I'm behind. I think it's awesome. Those comics were really good. I'm hoping they adapt Batman Incorporated to movie form. I would like to cash that check and and watch that move. I think it's really cool. The new 52. There's been a lot of great Batman comics made in the last 5 years or whatever. It's phenomenal material to mine. And there's only so many Batman movies you can spend $300 million on to make a movie, but you can make these cartoon movies all day long. There's lots. There's 75 years of Batman material to use, and then the last 5 years or so has been really, really strong.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to base anything off of any comic. I don't know they're going to base any of the Batman movies on anything. I think what we've heard Zack Snyder say is that, look, this Batman that we're about to see in Batman vs. Superman is influenced, to use that word, is influenced by The Dark Knight Returns, which is the perfect analogy, and we're really getting that sense, especially with that little scissor reel we saw at Comic-Con with Ben Affleck in that classic Dark Knight Returns Batman outfit, looking up at Superman. The crap's about to go down. That's great. I think what we're going to see is what you were alluding to a little bit. There's 75 years of source material. I think in the upcoming Batman films, you're going to see Schneider probably draw, or Affleck, who takes them over at some point, I'm sure, is going to draw on a lot of elements from a lot of different ones. I don't know that they're just going to go, the next standalone Batman film is Batman Court of Owls. He might. I just don't think that's the way they're going to go. So I think you're going to see a lot of influence without a lot of direct, this is what this is from.
Yeah, I mean, from everything that we've seen, just the two side stills of Batman from Batman v Superman, and what we've seen from Jared Leto's The Joker, and how he's going to be kind of like a little bit glammed up and a little bit like the Dark Knight Returns Joker, that I see that influence happening, where they're like, look, we're going to take some of the best elements from that universe that Frank Miller wrote, back in the 80s. And then we're going to add a bunch of other elements from, they could very well use the Court of Owls storyline. They very well could use storylines from the new 52, or just even going back like 5-10 years, some storylines from Batman from the comics. That's what I think is so great about, the cinematic world or the television world, all these adaptations of comic books. There's so much to choose from, and there's so many different versions of a Superman or a Batman or a Spider-Man. There's all these different versions. So like, I look forward to someday seeing the Spider-Man symbiote storyline done properly. I mean, there's, hey, look, they did a version of it. It was cool. Sam Raimi got a chance. We all got a chance to see Spider-Man swinging around in this kind of weird, version of that outfit. But I would like to actually just see that outfit and just, somebody make a movie. Make a fan film. I don't know if one even exists, but I would watch that. Just there, check bucket list, done, or whatever. Right. Make it a 5-minute film. It should be easy, 5 minutes. So, that's where we're at with that. So let's move on. Question 3, Potato Head, aka Robin Kelly, asks, hey AMC Heroes, which version of Green Lantern will they most likely be going from now? Sorry, it's a weird. Let me reread this, guys. You don't even have to edit my stumbling. I want that in this episode. Which version of Green Lantern will they most likely be going with from now on? Whew. That was a hard one. Maybe even more than one. Are they going to go with the Green Lantern Corps? What do you guys think? Are they going to rock that, or what?
I think the more we do these questions ourselves, the more we appreciate Sinead DeFries and Ashley Momoa. Right. So yeah, I'm sorry, Chris.
They used John Stewart was the main Green Lantern in the cartoons for in all the Justice League cartoons for probably 15, 20 years or whatever. That Hal Jordan Ryan Reynolds movie apparently tanked. I didn't see it. Right. And there's a lot of speculation that people were irked because it wasn't the Green Lantern, the John Stewart, who is a black guy. If you're not, familiar with it, they speculation that people stayed away because it wasn't their Green Lantern. So if they're going to try it again, maybe go with John Stewart just to push it a little farther away from the Ryan Reynolds movie that people apparently didn't like.
Look, man, I don't know why you didn't see the Green Lantern movie, because let me tell you, if you want to see Green Lantern fight a giant, like kind of diarrhea cloud, like this brown floating cloud, Man, that's a movie you want
I
to see.
thought that was Fantastic Four too.
That was a purple
that's
diarrhea
right.
cloud.
Yes,
this one was like
yes.
a actual brown cloud that was yelling and stuff. So
And did I read a post about Michelle Rodriguez might be Green Lantern? Or was that just clickbait, or is that a real thing?
that could have been clickbait, but I'd go for that. I think that's a cool idea. You know, the Green Lantern Corps is a great idea. They introduced that in the Green Lantern movie, and that to me was actually the best part or parts of any of the Green
The
Lantern.
stuff they did on Oa.
Yeah,
was
the
pretty
stuff
good.
on the Oa planet was great. Sinestro, Mark Strong, which you'll never see him again because that movie tanked. He was a great Sinestro. But so you got little flavor moments. All right, so that's what Sinestro would look like in that one movie that they won't make a sequel from.
Yeah.
You know, so now they have to reboot it and refigure it out. But, you know, an easy way to reboot it without, you know, saying that they screwed up the Green Lantern movie, get a different Green Lantern, because it's the Green Lantern Corps and they need a lot of Green Lanterns. So there can be
the rings, seek out you
Yeah.
know, the bravest, best people in the world. So anyone can be Green Lantern, which makes it, a little more aspirational and relatable. Because
Yes.
I am never going to be from Krypton. I'm never going to be able to fly under my own power. But maybe if I'm real brave, the Guardians of Oa will deem me worthy.
you will be selected.
I get a ring and I can want you.
Yeah. Can you be one of the Corps? You know? It's like-
I mean, I don't know. First, number one, I don't want the host of the Daily Show to be my Green Lantern. So let's just go. I think here's the thing. Like with me, I'm more of a traditional because of what I grew up reading Green Lantern. To me, and if you really read the mythology of it, like the true Green Lantern, there's one. It's not Guy Gardner. It's not Kyle Rayner. I would argue it's not John Stewart. I mean, there's to me, there's one quintessential Green Lantern. So I totally get the argument that there's a segment of people out there who, well, their exposure to Green Lantern was watching the cartoon, and therefore that to them, Green Lantern is John Stewart. I totally get that, but that's a fairly small number, really, in the grand scheme of things. So, I mean, me personally, I would really like it to stay the way it is. Don't bring Ryan Reynolds back, although Ryan Reynolds wasn't the problem with Green Lantern. It was a ton of other things. Get a new actor in, whether it's Chris Pine or not. That question got thrown at us earlier today. But look, I'm willing to try anything. John Stewart Green Lantern, hey, make it good, I'm in. Guy Gardner Green Lantern, make it good, I'm in. Kyle Rayner, any of the other, Kilowog, anybody you want to go with, sure. But if my preference, would be stay traditional. That's just my preference.
That would just be a crazy movie if they just were like Green Lantern Corps, and you're like, what? And it's like an anthology where they're like all over the universe, like different little stories. One's 5 minutes, one's 25 minutes. You know what I mean? Like one could be on Earth, one could be on like Quimlore. I don't even know where that is. All right, let's
This
go
is
to the
Sector
next.
75, man.
Hey,
Come on.
I forgot.
Oh, and they've got to go. Who's the little chipmunk one? Is it Chip?
Oh,
Is
the
that
one
his
with the
name?
mental powers and stuff like that.
They got to go with Chip.
Why not?
They use him great in one of my favorite series that I've read in years was the comic book version of Injustice: Gods Among Us. And in year 2 of that, he's actually the one guy who took Superman down. He takes Superman down, and he had him out, and he won, and somebody else had to come. It's like bad wrestling, where another guy had to come in the ring and kind of knock him off and stuff like that. But he took Superman down, which is pretty cool.
Fantastic. Chip, go Chip. All right, question number 5 we got is coming from Danielle Castellan. They write, AMC Heroes, since Big Hero 6 is now Disney's 3rd highest animated film, what other characters should have their own animated films? I pick Power Pack.
Runaways. Look, the only reason I'm not going to go full blown and say Runaways is because there is a script at Marvel right now for a live action Runaways that they were actually in early development of, and they put the project on the shelf.
Right.
So I'm not going to go full out for Runaways because I'm still secretly hoping they do a live action version of Runaways. But if not, Runaways is one that could work very well in an animated world. So I'll stick with that one. I'll say Runaways.
Chris?
I vote for Wonder Woman. I know there's a Wonder Woman live action coming out, but it's going to be PG-13 because all these superhero movies are PG-13. And that to me is absolutely bonkers. I mean, how can you have a Wonder Woman movie that an 8-year-old girl, that my niece can't go and see? It's foolish to me. I would love to see, Frozen, Incredibles, version of Wonder Woman. You can do all sorts of crazy.
Should she sing?
Why not? I mean, little girls love singing songs.
Yeah, they do.
Put some songs in there that they want to sing. I mean, that their money is green.
Their money is green.
Dude,
I love that. That's awesome.
That pink money is green, right?
I love the suggestion of Power Pack. I think that's a perfect animated film that will appeal to adults and kids. But I was also going to think about like Dial H for Hero. I don't know if you remember that. It's a very weird comic book series. It's like a kid gets this like telephone type thing that he dials it, and every time it goes to a different hero creation, he becomes that hero and solves problems. So it's kind of I don't know if that would work as well as a movie, maybe a TV show, but
I think they already used that idea for Ben 10. Ben 10 is basically
You're right.
yeah,
you know
that's
what?
right.
So scratch that power pack. Going back. All right, question number 5 we got is from Dimitri Petri G3000. Asks AMC Heroes, think we'll ever see a Daredevil cameo in Civil War? What do you think, John?
I think Marvel is going to be cautious about crossing some of these new TV properties into their cinematic universe. I think you're much more likely, and hey, could be wrong about this, it could go the other way, but I think you're more likely to see it go the other way, where you'll see Marvel take some of their smaller cinematic characters, like a Lady Sif, right? And have them cross into their TV show maybe before you're going to see that. I think they're going to be a little bit more cautious about that for now. So I don't think we'll see him in Civil War, but don't bet the bank on it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
How about you, Chris?
I bet they put Matt Murdock in his lawyer form. I bet he's a talking head being interviewed on TV or something. So I bet they use it as a
Cameo sort of thing?
yeah, as a little Easter egg for the fans to laugh at, but nothing that's gonna actually confuse anyone.
Kind of like the way the Captain America Winter Soldier, when they just casually reference Stephen Strange
Right.
on the rep, so something like that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
could actually work. That
Yeah, I
could
was
be
going to
cool.
rock with the same kind of thing and just have like, because it's Civil War, there's probably going to be like, look, I know a perfect lawyer's named Matt Murdock, I'll call him. Like it could be a walk away or a throwaway line like the Strange. That'd be great to actually see a clip on a TV as you're scrolling by, like with a Matt Murdock. Well, I don't know if that would be great. And I think that would be a perfect way that they could fuse in these kind of cross back and forth cinematic television kind of things. So, but yeah, I don't really see it. I see it as more so like, Sif hanging out with some agents once in a while, as opposed to like seeing like Chris Evans like in a full blown episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. I think it'd be more so like, a crossover the reverse way, but I'd like to see Murdoch in there. So question number 6, we got Devin Colson. Devin Cole S58 says, what's your most anticipated superhero films of 2016? 2016.
Oh, there's only one answer to that.
It's one.
Officer Down.
Yes! All right, there's 2 answers, guys. Officer Down's going to have to take a second place to Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
So that is the most anticipated film. I mean, they've only made us wait, like, how long has it been? 7 years? How long? I mean, it feels like a really long time.
It has been a while.
Like, Superman came out in 2013 or 12. It's Man of Steel.
Man of Steel, I think it
Who knows?
was 2013. It was Man of Steel.
All right,
and here's the thing. Look, we're not saying that Batman versus Superman is going to be the best movie of that year. It might be. It might be the second best. It might be the worst comic book superhero film of that year. But the thing is this. We have been waiting decades. We've been waiting decades to see Batman and Superman on the big screen together. And no matter how stoked I am for Civil War, no matter how stoked I am for everything else that's coming out that year, which I am incredibly stoked for, this is Batman versus Superman. Look, we've been waiting generations for this. Movie may suck, movie may be awesome, but like, what are we anticipating more? It's got to be Batman versus Superman.
Yeah. Let's go with question number 7.
Or Officer Down.
Or Officer Down.
Yes, absolutely.
Paul Sarah says, Heroes, what happened to the X-Force movie? Do you think Fox is still interested, or did Deadpool derail that film?
I think if anything derailed that film would be the unexpected level of success of X-Men Days of Future Past. I think that's what kind of derailed it a bit, and it made them answer, you know what? They saw the film, they sat back, they watched it. This is long before it hit theaters, and they're like, yeah, Apocalypse. And I think it's so that flowing into Apocalypse is probably what sidetracked it. I don't know where it stands. I mean, we've been actually getting Twitter messages from Mark Millar lately, so maybe we should just ask him.
Yeah.
But where's this thing at? But I think that's what derailed it. And hey, you know what? If Deadpool knocks it out of the park the way we're hoping it does, that could really reinvigorate talks of X-Force at that point. I mean, that could open the floodgates for it. So let's just hope for that. Like, what do you think happened to it? What do you think is holding it up?
I think you're right by saying X-Men Days of Future Past. The big response to it was really literally like, Singer, can we sign you up for another movie? He was like, yes. they were like Jeff Wadlow, the director of Kick-Ass 2, was writing the screenplay and was going to be directing this X-Force movie.
Yeah.
We don't know who they were going to have play Cable. A lot of people have said Scott Lang, the actor from Avatar. He's a perfect Cable.
Yeah. He's the guy.
Yeah, you should just cast him. Stop messing around already. Just get that guy to be Cable. He's going to be in 18 Avatar movies. So now you can't get to him for like at least 14 years. I don't know. You have to make a trade with Cameron. But, give him somebody. Then he'd be like, I get to use this person for these 3 weeks and you get Scott Lang. So I think X-Force, if they're not going to do the X-Force that they were talking about doing, where it was going to have, it was going to have Cable, it was going to have Deadpool, it was going to have Cannonball. They were talking about having Wolverine in it. I would say go with the Mike Allred version of X-Force. Man, I can't believe I'm spacing out the guys, the writer of it.
Peter Milligan.
Thank you so much. I know I'm embarrassed. Hey, look, Peter Milligan, Screamer. Read that. Suck it. I know who Peter Milligan is. But I just forgot his name for a second. Peter Milligan and Mike Allred did my favorite version of X-Force when they did this reboot X-Force. It came out a few years ago, but it was like brand new, all new characters, and you never knew issue by issue who was just going to die.
Yeah.
Because it was like an extreme X-Force. It was like, this is a government-run, operated X-Force that gets sent out on military missions. They're mercenaries. They're guns for hire. And they had some really crazy, really cool characters.
Yeah, and they're also, they're on a weird, like, Real World or American Idol kind of TV show.
Yes.
And I've reread that whole run every couple years, and it's still, I mean, it's 10 years old, and it still seems like it could have come out today. It's totally topical still.
Yeah.
It's absolutely some of the most readable comics ever made.
Fantastic.
It's phenomenal. Everyone should read
Dead
those
Girl.
comics.
There's all these characters that a lot of you probably don't know about. Check out the newer version of X-Force, and I think that would be a great version of the movie.
That seems. I want that to be more of a TV show because I think the serialized element would work a lot better because then you can bring the people in and then it's always a surprise. Who's going to get cast for the new team and who's going to get killed on the first mission.
That's true.
That sort of thing.
I would see it either way.
Though the one thing I would always on my wish list of any time there's a talk of X-Force and I never see her name mentioned, for me, I gotta have Domino. To me, that's just, and I know she hasn't been part of some of people's favorites incarnations of the team, stuff like that. But the dynamics between Domino and Cable, I thought have always been awesome. There's always this great camaraderie, yes, but sexual tension and all that kind of stuff too. I just thought she was badass. I love Domino. If there's an X-Force movie, I want to see her as a part of it.
Right on. So that is our last question for this week's AMC Heroes. Thank you once again, John Campea, for tuning in. Where can people find you online?
Hey guys, you can find me on AMC Heroes or AMC Movie Talk. Jedi Council is going to be on Thursday, a mailbag on the weekends, and just doing AMC Movie Talk with this guy over here right now. And you can find me online anywhere, just on Twitter and Facebook at John Campea.
And Chris, where can people find you in the world
people
of
can
the
find
internet?
me on, I'm pretty active on Twitter. I'm The Burnham on Twitter. And I'd like to say I've got a new graphic novel that comes out tomorrow. It's called Nixon's Pals. It's by me and Joe Casey, my co-creator on Officer Down. Starts filming in 2 weeks. Nixon's Palace is about a parole officer for supervillains, and he's just a dude. They've all got crazy powers.
I love it already. This sounds awesome.
It's so good. It really is so good. And I've got copies for each of you guys.
That's
awesome.
incredible.
Thank you, Chris.
What a great concept.
Man, I'm going to bring these guys back on the show. More of these artists bringing free comic books. What's going on? Hey, I'm John Schnepp. This is AMC Heroes. You can come tune back in next week for a lot more comic book sweaty nerd talk here at AMC Heroes. Hashtag AMC Heroes and write us your questions. I comb through it every day. I comb through and look for it. So these are questions that were from last week all the way up till a couple days ago. So just write in. We'll get a bunch of your questions in here, and I'll see you guys next week.